about to terrify a lot of people, I think.
Yes, it's a strong subject. Actually, I
Be
think it's one of the
afraid. Be
best
very
topics.
afraid. Be
I'm
very
so excited.
afraid.
It's like whenever I think about it, like when you talk about AI, which is the subject today, it's really for me this is the future. So like I'm really in that school of just we need to master AI, and it's going to
Mm.
change lives. So this is for me really a subject that just I'm passionate about it, and I know that you really went into AI a lot and looked at all the options and how to leverage AI. And yeah, so it's a
Mm.
very exciting topic.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I feel like every single time I immerse myself into like that AI space and I go on a YouTube rampage or like a three or 4 week kind of like full in-depth immersion into like the latest developments, the technology, what's happening, how things are kind of evolving, the new launches, all those types of things. Like there's this interesting sense of kind of like terror. You're like,
Yes, that
I
fear.
have,
You're
I
afraid of
have,
AI. They're gonna
I
take your
have
job
no
away. Like it's like a
time. Like
strong
I'm like,
fear.
I find myself like not sleeping. I find myself being like you need to move faster. Like these people are
Yes.
literally
It's
like,
almost like you want to challenge something that you should not challenge. It's like, hey,
correct.
it's like AI that like I need to be smarter than AI. Like that's my thing. Like I need to really master this. And or maybe I should not actually look at AI. It's gonna go away. And those two things they're not
Correct.
gonna almost
So
like
I think
not gonna
perhaps we
realize.
start there in terms of like those two camps of people because there's definitely like the perhaps older demographic that's kind of like, oh, like maybe if I stick my head in the sand for long enough, it'll go away.
It's
You
gonna go
know?
away. I'm not gonna see AI. It's not gonna be there.
Exactly. And then there's like the people that are like the fanatics in terms of like how can I use this for my business? How can I maximize the leverage? How can I like get more from this, tool, this technology, this system? And I think like the way I look at it, like from a fundamental, maybe like first principles perspective, is like if you just look at there's that kind of like ism in specifically in like technology and software, and they something along the lines of like if you can, you must, or and it's essentially like if you're building something and you can build it, you should build it because if you don't build it, someone else will build it, right? And
Yes,
it's like the Chinese competitor will build it, DeepSeek will build it, maybe Ukraine will build it, somebody else will do the thing that you
yes,
can't. So there's this like very real like race against time and race against the market of like how can we get the best product to market? Because in this game, like the best product to market always wins. It's
absolutely.
very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and it's also about speed. If you think about it, like people would necessarily like, hey, like I don't want to get into AI. I'll take my time next year, maybe. Like we'll check it out. It's all about speed. Within 12 months, we're already looking at new tools, and you're
Mm.
not necessarily adapting to the market. And I think that's something that I've seen in the not necessarily entrepreneurial journey, but a lot of people when they're kind of looking at just learning something, like we're gonna do it next time. We're gonna do it maybe next year. Maybe we're gonna do it
Correct.
like not today, right? For me, it's
Mm.
almost like why? It's speed. You need
Mm.
to be today looking at actually these opportunities and looking at how you can grow your business and how you can actually generate this income. Because a problem that you're thinking about is actually far away. It's actually closer than what you think. So you need to
Yeah.
really be prepared. And I think AI, it's really for me, that's if you master AI, you're gonna master the future. And that's gonna be the
Mm.
goal.
Let's maybe talk about a few of the things that have happened over the last week or so, like some of the somewhat maybe like recent kind of like advancements, things that have been launched, things that have been kind of released. I know we were talking about some of these things earlier, but
Yes.
there's a lot that's changed in the last like 7 to 10 days, even in terms of like
Yes.
announcements, new kind of the image technology. There's some really cool
Yes.
things, and I think maybe let's talk about the ones that might be most relevant for the audience. And I know on the next episode, we'll do a deeper dive into some specific tools and we'll give you guys some direction in terms of like, use this tool, this is how to use it, here's a demonstration. But let's kind of start first things first with some of the advancements or some of the things that have happened more recently.
Course. So actually, like ChatGPT that we use right now like ChatGPT and eCom for everything. So use it for ad copy, use it for
Mm,
like again, we it's like the tool that you can rely on right now
mm,
if in terms of your store. It's actually
correct.
like right now we have the new function where you can almost like you can generate not just content, you can also have like a creative strategist with you that would generate
Yes.
based on your own. You can literally put in your brand information and they would start getting you content, which was one of the most challenging elements. It's actually happened with the last update, and I think like OpenAI they raised like 40 billions in the last 7 days or so, and it's really amazing to see this, and it's almost like position a lot of fear in the market because it's
Mm,
like, hey, OpenAI could do this, they can actually do content, and then what would happen to agencies? What would
mm,
happen to people, freelancers that are just working on
yeah.
content? Hey, I'm really doing content. So there's a lot of fear that kind of raised, like it was kind of going up the moment that AI, like OpenAI did this update. And I think, in my
Mm.
opinion, they have a lot of things on the back end that they're not sharing. So we're actually
Oh
probably a
yeah.
year behind of what they actually
Mm.
could do.
Yeah, and I was sharing it with you earlier as well in terms of there's a colleague of mine and we had a podcast. I think it's launching here in the next week or so, or 2 weeks or something, and she has an influencer kind of like creative agency, and with this new launch of kind of like OpenAI, the image generation, and if you haven't yet tried the image generation with OpenAI, like go and try it and punch in
You're gonna
some
be
specific
surprised.
prompts and, and you'll look at it and you'll be like very like it's like wow, like is that real? Like it's very very difficult now to distinguish, and the thing is as well, it's like what you said there before, it's like this is kind of what they've released, you know what I mean, like
Yes.
they're holding
Nothing like
back their best cards, you know.
we have other things, and I think actually, Sam, the CEO, he mentioned you guys are not ready for the new updates. I'm like, hey,
Mm,
that's exciting. He's creating some hype, obviously, but it's really looking at we're really starting to see those tools that you can generate to make really strong income, and you can really position yourself right now versus the competition by using these tools. So you almost like
mm,
I see a weapon that you're not like we can literally take it and just start kind of entering the battle. And some
mm,
people are actually thinking, hey, I can't, I don't need this like weapon. I can just go and fight with a knife. And you see others they coming
yeah.
in with like pretty much like the latest uh like structure in the markets. I would really have a lot of fear if I was not looking at AI right now, particularly not
Yeah.
getting exposure to how others are using AI. Because keep in mind
Mm,
that AI, it's not just that just like load ChatGPT and you're gonna learn everything. It's really about seeing how others are using AI. And that's what actually like I'm very excited when I see that I'm joining a call. Let's say we have a group session in eCom Capital, and we see all the businesses they're actually using AI in a different manner than what I expected.
yes.
And you can see all these new models that you've never seen before just because you get exposure to other sellers and how they use AI. So it's really
Correct.
I think there's like an effect of having exposure to actually people using how like using AI and generating new things.
Mm. And I think like fundamentally, if you look at like what the tools do is they provide like leverage. You know what I mean? Like in the game of business, it's like the person with the most leverage wins. And I always look at leverage as like how can I do the least and get the most? And that's all it
Yes.
is. And if you think about like some of these tools that we will probably share and talk about a little bit next week, it's like you don't need the creative agency soon completely at all. You don't need, the email marketing agency. It's like you don't need the support in terms of maybe ad media buying very soon.
And you
It's
don't
like
need
this,
customer service. Like, hey,
you don't need
like
customer
another
service. Like it's like there's so many elements of your business. The whole like product ideation. We spoke a little bit about Alibaba, and they just released their kind of like product finding tool native on the platform, and you can just go to Alibaba and like select it says something like AI sourcing agent, and you can load in images there of like take a photo off your phone, post it in there, and kind of like type in like your MOQs, type in how many of the product that you want, all of the details,
I'm
and it will
actually
actually
like
sort
right
your
now, I'm literally like going into AI and seeing how we can leverage AI to negotiate with suppliers. I have a
yeah.
coaching session that we do every week about supply chain negotiation, and we have one like we had one person in the mastermind that cut their costs. It was like 8,000, 9,000, and 25,000. And the strategy I did kind of go with like let's say we use some strategy in negotiation. But one of the recommendation I had in the call was actually coming from AI. And I kind of leverage a little bit how we can use AI to negotiate better. And I think coming in the next, let's say level of or chapter of ecom is going to be how good are you with AI? If you're really
Yeah.
good, you're going to be
Yeah.
kind of top in the industry. If you don't know how to use AI, then you're going to have really strong challenges. And in my opinion,
Mm,
right now, if you want exposure, you need to have exposure to a community, or I would say other businesses that are doing this. Otherwise, you're going to
correct.
have a limited like exposure because there's no school. And this is actually what we talked about, university versus coaching. university they can't really match even the speed of media buying. So it's going to be like a whole other thing for them to even look
Correct.
at AI.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like like it's hard sometimes because I know that like people are so entrenched in like what they're doing in the day to day, like their work or their business or like just the way I'm doing things. It's like, oh, well, this is just the way I've always done things, or I don't have time. And so I think one really cool kind of like way that people can integrate more like AI focuses just into their day to day is just to like sit there, whether it's like going through the latest YouTube videos, going through even just opening ChatGPT and just like playing around with it and being like, oh wow, like what about this and what about that, and what it's just like that exposure to the tool. And then obviously like you mentioned there, it's like if you can have exposure to a bunch of people, and I think what you mentioned there in terms of the community aspect, building a business, so it's like what that does is it creates the demand for you to actually need to do some of these things in terms of create some ad copy, create some images, create some email flows. It's like you need to do that. So you're like, oh, well, I can sit there and write it by
It's
myself,
more
or I
actually
can,
yes. If you think about it, yes, it's actually, let's say we want to learn a new language. Let's say like we want to learn this new language. What would be the best way to learn it? Practice, right? We need to talk.
yeah,
So for me, if
yeah,
you're going to AI like ChatGPT and you don't know how to speak, it's like almost like I don't know how to talk to that AI. But if you go to a community, it's almost like we're practicing together and
correct,
we're trying to learn. So if we talk a little bit, hey, let's do this thing, let's do it together, let's just try this thing, let's do this prompt. It's almost like we're learning a new language. And the more you
correct.
master it, the better you get. So for me, it's almost like you need exposure to other businesses using AI. And
Mm,
I think actually we should do a challenge of building an entire business with AI, which I was really like thinking about like, hey, you can literally do a
mm,
full business from product, let's say selection to actually launching and scaling with AI, but you need strategy. And that's what I think about. It's not just,
mm,
putting in, hey, I want to launch a product with ChatGPT and it's going to get me like everything. It's more of
yeah.
I need to have a strategy to make money. And it's using AI to really accelerate, as you mentioned, the leverage to
Mm.
get things done fast.
And I think like we were saying as well earlier, it's like that's where the value of kind of like the strategy piece comes in. You know what I mean? Because like if you take like, really redundant strategy, or you take somebody who has like no idea about strategy, they have no idea about like, business economics, commercials, finance, marketing, any of these things, and then you give that person a whole bunch of these tools, they'll probably do a whole bunch of nothing and then be
Yes.
confused. Whereas like it's like you equip somebody who's like commercially sound, they understand the markets, they understand product with this kind of like ability to use like powerhouse like AI tools, and it just accelerates the
Yes.
progress. And so I think like when I think about it, I'm like it essentially takes it's like taking your skill set, taking your ability, and it gives you so much more reach and so much more depth. And you can scale your skill set so much further because you're not sitting there having to do all these manual things yourself. Like it's it's
Yes.
it's
I
very,
I would
very,
actually
very
call it like
powerful.
the equation of AI speed plus human strategy. If you combine the two, you have
Mm,
an insane leverage. And that's kind of how I look at it every time. Like, hey, Meta have been using AI for years and people are not even aware of this. They don't know that the
yes.
Meta algorithm is pretty much AI based. So
Yes,
we've been
correct.
exposed to this for a while, but right now we're getting access to it. It's almost like we have internet. Like, and
Correct.
some in the past were like,
Correct.
hey, internet's not going to be a thing, or I'm not sure that internet, like, we're probably not going to use it for a long time. And you can see after years, it's still like, it's actually the next thing.
Yeah, it's like I rem- I remember the first time my dad brought home a computer, and I was like, oh, what's this thing? Like, geez, this internet's so slow. Like, I can't believe that, someone would type some random like words in the browser. Like, what do you know what I mean? And then it's like my whole company is built on the internet. All of my company is built on the internet, and it's like
Yes, and,
it,
and and right now it's like we're living in the best times for the internet
yeah,
because it's matured enough to actually allow you to have your business where you
correct.
can be anywhere. There's no limit.
Mm,
And I actually see this as a blessing that others are not aware of. If you're working on
mm,
your job and you're thinking, hey, I'm working on this every single day. I'm this one location. I can't move because my job, it's just linked to this one thing. But if you have an internet job that they call, like, say, an e-commerce business, or even if you're running any business online, then you can technically be anywhere. There's no limit.
yep,
You can
yep.
travel. You can have the opportunity to pick your location versus just being, hey, I need to do this one thing and I can't move.
Mm,
It's probably because you need to look at other opportunities in the market. In my opinion, that's why e-commerce is the next thing.
mm. And so let's maybe share some of the perspectives in terms of like from what you see in terms of like industries, or in terms of like particular like definitive markets or definitive kind of like sectors, definitive verticals that you see that will be absolutely disrupted, changed like tremendously in terms of their overall function?
Absolutely. So I see the main ones would be probably if I was to look at education, for example, education a strong one. Like right now, education universities, in my opinion, if you're thinking about, hey, I'm going to put some money for like university, I don't think universities are actually able to match the level that the
Mm,
market kind of advanced. Like there's like big gap. That's the first one. I would say universities would be affected aggressively, producing people that can do things, and that's a problem. Like if you spend
mm,
4 years and you pay $200,000 for like
mm.
for the fees, and you think that you produced something, you might not, and that's very challenging to
Yeah.
actually think about that gap right away. So that's one industry that I would say is affected by default because of their low, I would say, value. It's just expensive
And
for
I
nothing.
think also the speed of change is so slow. And I think that's
Yes.
what puts it particularly at risk. It's like they spin out the same curriculums over and over again. They have such like rigid structures of like, no, we only teach this
And they're
curriculum. No, we
producing the
only do.
most, and they're producing most like they're just sending like if I was to look at the numbers, I have massive numbers of people that are every year, paying and kind of graduating from this university with no skills. And that's a problem. And they
Yeah,
pay the money. And they almost like brainwashed to believe that they need to also build experience later. It's almost like, what did you learn? Nothing. I just got this paper. Okay, and
exactly.
what can you do? Nothing. Okay, so you
Yeah.
need to build experience. So why don't you actually just build experience right away and just not look at this paper? Oh, I still
Mm,
probably need it. So that's I think like there's like a big gap in my opinion in there. And AI, as you mentioned, is gonna it's gonna crush this industry in my opinion.
mm,
That's the first one. I think legal finances they're gonna be affected
mm.
like very aggressively. Lawyers particularly because if you look at AI, like I'm probably I would challenge, but I think AI would really start kind of building systems that are very strong. And I think the
Mm.
best legal firm would probably master AI to the best. Like I think they're going to probably have some algorithmic updates where they have the mastery of certain cases and they know how to kind of tackle them with
Correct.
AI. Because
Correct.
I don't think a person would compete in the future with AI, even in this area of like emotions and negotiating and things like that. That's in my opinion one that's going to be affected. So right now,
There's
probably
a
if you're
colleague of
say
mine, there's a
paralegal or
colleague of
anything
mine.
like
Oh,
manual, you're going to be affected right away.
there's a colleague of mine that I have in, and he's a lawyer, and so he actually created this startup. This was probably 18 months ago now, I suspect, and so they developed this product, and what it does is essentially, so if in terms of like legal is always subject to like changes, updates, compliance. Legal like laws change, and so the legal firms need to always adapt and get new policies, new regulations, new kind of updates. And so there's this constant like fight between like new legislation got released. We need to update all our contracts and all our legislation within the contracts to make sure that they're actually fitting. Then the lawyers need to upskill as per the new regulations in the contract. And so what he did was he put together this kind of like platform that essentially like uses AI to just do all of that. And so it just reduces anything in terms of any need for any studying of new legislation. It just populates all of their new kind of agreements, all their new documentation. Everything's done just almost like live,
And
So
that's gonna like think about the lawyer that would every day look at the job. His job is to do research or to analyze cases.
correct, correct.
With AI, just the speed is not the same, and it's not
Mm,
a fair game. And I think that in the next probably year or two, they're gonna see their industry very much affected with AI
mm,
coming in. It's already like I think it's already affected, but probably that's a strong one. I think the creative and design. When I say like creative and design, I mean like editing content, like editing, copywriting
yeah.
they're going to be affected. And I probably would say they are right now affected because a lot of them are freelancers and so on, and they're affected right now. They know it's like when you
Mm,
send like a probably like when you send a message to a person doing this, they're going to be like, hey, like my clients are comparing me to ChatGPT, like pretty much. Did you submit this with ChatGPT? Like, why are we paying you if we can pay ChatGPT?
correct,
So it's almost
correct.
like you're questioned, and your experience and
Yeah.
everything you did is questioned. So I
Mm,
think that's a strong like there's a strong impact in there, and that's like those are the industries. That is probably like coding and website design a little bit, but I
mm,
think the software industry because they're very like I would say like they know how to adapt. Probably they're gonna go into AI, so they're gonna just switch a little bit the
yes,
category. But if they
yes.
stay in the like coding and kind of like the kind of developing things, they're gonna be affected aggressively because AI would dominate in that space as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with like if you think about, for example, some of these industries like the creative industry, like I was mentioning in terms of that colleague of mine that has the creative agency, and she's like pretty scared. You know what I mean? She's doing a lot of work in, the AI space at the moment as well. And then she owns this like creative agency at the same time. And so she's like, okay, so I can see what's happening. Holy shit. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
and she like technically like like there's a strong fear. Keep in mind that I would be actually afraid if I was doing any job where like even if it's any manual job, that's you already affected. Like any manual job where it
yes,
just doesn't require, let's say, strategy. The second thing would be if you're doing anything that's, let's say, you're editing content or you're doing something that AI can kind of master fast.
yes.
It's like it's just a matter of time.
Like I think the risk there is like overall, like if I look at it, I'm like, okay, so why is it that for example, like the content creation, content generation industry may get kind of disrupted? And it's like, well, the tool is able to generate the content, right? And so then the kind of like the value then comes from the strategist or the person that's able to, direct and shape. And so if we think about like design, for example, graphic design, any form of like content, the game then becomes like, okay, cool. So me sitting there in like Adobe or something, creating the
That doesn't make
content,
sense.
it's like that's redundant, like that's obsolete, like that whole system is completely null and void. And then so it becomes like, okay, so where's the value, and what are people going to exchange value for, what are they going to exchange money for? And it's like it comes down to, we all have access to these tools, they're going to be ubiquitous, and they are open source, they're for everyone to use. And then so it's like, who can actually prompt and
Use
engineer
them.
and drive and shape and use like the strategy to fuel your business and create creatives that everyone else looks at and they're like, oh my God, like how is that create, how did you do that? It's
Yes.
like that's where the value is. It's very
Yes,
different.
absolutely. I think it's really like if you think about anything that just like right now, every person have access to this. It's not necessarily like scarce, but
Mm,
how to use the tools. It's almost like I would give you, let's say, right now, a lot of water. You can use it different ways. Like you can be creative. And in my case here, for when I look at particularly AI with e-commerce, it's like how can we leverage these tools to get the best returns? And every scenario is different, and every person that's going to be buying is different. So it's really about looking at the numbers and making decisions using these tools. And if you know
mm,
how to do this with like a good strategy, as you mentioned, it's going to be very scalable. And again, I would
mm.
not fear AI. I would actually leverage AI.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary for people to get involved and lean into it and start to experiment with it, use it for whatever kind of like application that you can in your business. And I think most people in our community, like they're pretty on top of it. I love when I, get on to our events and we like I go into the room, for example, and you have a look through the room and there's like 100 founders in the room and they might be doing
No,
something on their laptop and all of them have got like ChatGPT and they're all punching away
yes,
something.
because we're learning. This is the thing. We're learning the language.
Exactly.
If you think about
Yeah.
it, like what we're doing right now, we're pretty much, if I was to really like look at what's the future, it's going to be
Mm,
us learning more how to use these tools together.
mm,
And that's going to be most of the time, like, what's the strategy? Is how can we master AI? Right now, hey, how can we master e-commerce? It's going to be how can we master AI? And it's almost
mm,
that's this language you want to practice. You want to see others, what they're doing. Every scenario is different. Every prompt is different. And you're going to discover
mm,
new things when you're in these kind of environments. So in my opinion, it's really, we're already in there. And it's going to be, I think about kind of the future in terms of AI. We're kind of a school teaching AI. It's like almost
mm,
like we're teaching this, but we're doing it in an environment where we focus on e-commerce and returns for e-commerce. So if you ask me what's
mm.
the future, I'm like, we're going to be teaching how to use AI for
Correct.
business owners that don't have experience on this. And we're
Correct.
going to actually share some prompts and things that are not in the market and how to leverage them to get to the next level and or how
Mm,
to leverage AI tools to strategize and scale. So this
mm,
is kind of the future. And for me
mm.
that's exciting. So I'm like probably, hey, we're
And
gonna
I think it's
up
also
here.
like
It is exciting.
because there's kind of like that opinion, like I look at it from the perspective also of like, so there's that definite kind of maybe like fear or risk of like, okay, so is my job going to be at risk, as an example? And it's like it may be, you know what I mean, like genuinely, like it may be. And I think when I think about some of the team members we have in the company, I'm like, okay, fantastic. So let's say, for example, we really integrated a lot of AI, which is what we're kind of doing at the moment, into all of their roles. And we really like, improved efficiencies and baked a lot of like, systems and building around into what they're doing. all that would do is it would amplify the actual scalability of their service. Number one, quality, speed, in terms of they'd be able to do it much better quality consistently in less time, and also without really getting tired or having breaks or having mistakes. You know what I mean? So it's like we can take the current kind of like output of the company, and this is how I think founders should look at it. So it's like it's a very simple kind of equation. If you as an operator of your business spend like 100 units of energy into your input side of the business to generate, say, 200 units of output, right? It's like 100 in and I get 200 out. It's like that's okay. You've got a 2x kind of efficient system. Now, if you can take that same system and put like 5 energy units in and then get like 200 out, effectively, you know,
Scaled.
you compounded the actual efficiency of your system. And that's really what this is allowing people to do, is do so much more. Like if I think back to first starting in e-commerce, right? Or first starting in any form of business, it was like you paid. I remember the first business cards I got designed years ago. I paid this designer a ridiculous amount of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars for some business cards and a stupid logo on a shirt that right now could have been spun up for free in a matter of seconds. You know what I mean? And it's just like,
That's when you see the value, like the change. It's You're just insane. You have a move from, let's say, in the past where we pay hundreds of dollars or even thousands, and right now for free, and it's even better.
yeah. Yeah, no, like it's unbelievably powerful in terms of like what can be done. And I think the idea overall for anyone listening or anyone even thinking, considering, like it's like, all right, this sounds like something I should be really like looking at. It's like you definitely should be looking at, like absolutely.
Yes.
And I think a very proactive, like forward approach in terms of the way that you're applying it to your company, to your business, just to your day-to-day life. Like, hey, make sorting out your email list faster. You know what I mean? Like, make some data analysis faster. I use it to determine all of my own personal budgeting. Like, I have all my own personal budget that I roll through and I track and record every single, week on week. And I take that spreadsheet and I punch it into, an AI tool, and I have it determine and tell me different fluctuations and percentages in different areas.
Yes.
I'm like, where should I chop? Where should I change? What adjustments perhaps should I make here based on this? Am I trending in the right direction towards my long-term goals? If I consistently, continue investing or saving at this rate over the next 7 years, how much will I have in total overall asset value? And so it's fantastic for all these things. And you don't need to be like, in business or operating business or doing something right now to be like, oh, I guess I don't really
Let's
have
use
an
AI. It's
application
like,
for it.
hey,
It's like
I don't want to use it. But I
plan
think
your
it's actually,
plan.
like I
Yeah.
would recommend, and this is probably like going to create a lot of fear, but what I've been doing in the last probably 15 days or 20 days, I've actually been journaling everything I'm doing with AI. Like I'm literally just putting in, this is what I'm doing right now. And I'm just like literally journaling. And AI, within you update, it's almost like a coach. It's like, hey, telling you, hey, this is good. So let's actually try to optimize it a little bit better like this. So you
So
can
just explain
actually,
that. Just explain that again for me. So you said you're journaling everything. How do you mean? Like in terms of ad account changes and stuff like that, or
no. So I'm just journaling everything I'm doing in general. So in terms of just like personal, not necessarily business, but just
got
like
it?
I'm literally just putting in what I'm doing from wake up to sleep, and
Uh-huh.
I'm putting that
Understood.
as a journal. And the
Nice.
idea was to see any gaps that I don't see, because sometimes you don't see the gaps. Like you're thinking, hey, I'm really effective in my business. When you
Love
think
that.
about it, like, are you actually effective? Do you think you're doing everything? And I
Yep.
think journaling, it's almost like you give me the inputs. It's very painful to do, because really I have to type in like, hey, I'm doing this right now. But if you do it consistently, then you can give AI almost like a vision of, like, you can kind of give them like a screenshot
Yes.
of what you're doing, and they can
Yes.
optimize for you. So that was
I
kind of
love
the
that.
idea.
I love that. I do a similar thing. I run my Google Calendar like very, very, very accurately. All the events have the exact like recording, and then I take a snapshot of my whole calendar and I load that into ChatGPT. And I'm
Okay,
like,
yes,
how
and they
many
recognize. I actually did this as well.
how many hours of like high leverage versus low leverage? Which things should I cut? Which things are low, like admin tasks? Which things are repeating low? And it will give you this whole entire plan executing exactly how to optimize your calendar and improve what you're doing overall day to day. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
And I think it should be leveraged more. If you're listening to like thinking, hey, what should I do? Start journaling, and also think about your business. If you're thinking
mm,
about, I have $100. should I put it
Mm,
into this general expense or actually put it in business? Most of
mm,
the time, from what I've seen, AI would tell you, hey, put it in your business. Actually invest smartly, obviously have some savings, but really put in your money where you get the best returns. So in my
mm.
opinion, your time is your like technically the resource that you can play with. So it's really
Yep.
using AI to optimize it. I think that's the next thing.
And I think the cool thing, so one thing that I really, really liked recently, so have you used the voice feature on the phone in terms of like actually like communicating and interacting in person or like in
No,
person?
I've been using just the text.
Oh, right. Okay. So I did this recently with so we had a couple of team members kind of like offboarded from the team, and then we had a couple of team members on board, and I went through the recruiting process, right? So what I did was and I like to use the voice thing because it's kind of like I ask it to interview me, right? And I'm like, okay, so here's the job role. You are like a HR kind of recruitment specialist. You're an expert in this field. I want you to interview me and ask me all of the questions about this particular candidate, what happened from start to finish that led to them being offboarded in the company, so we can avoid having these mistakes happen again, right? And then so what it will do is like it will like and I do this like I'm laying down in bed before I'm going to going to sleep, and it's got like the AI on my chest, and I'm like, okay, so tell me about the start of this person's role, and I'm
Okay,
sitting there
you're
and
like
having a
really
conversation.
optimizing to the next level. Okay, this is
Yeah,
really amazing.
yeah, and then it takes that whole entire conversation, spins it up into an entire report. And I've done this now with the last like five, six, seven people that I've hired and both hired and also offboarded as well, all of the different kind of functions, because I want to make sure I'm like, okay, so here's the patterns, right? And so when these things happen, when the conversations like this happen, I know it's going to lead to that result. So I think if you look at it like what that would have been like previously is like me sitting there and thinking and typing it out and
Yes.
like, oh, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, please interview me, AI, with all the questions relevant to understanding the best practices. And I just sit there talking into the phone. And it's outstanding. Yeah.
It's almost like you're feeding data to the AI, and it's almost like you leveraging that. Like that's kind of the thing. So you need to supply information to AI so that it actually can optimize. And I
Correct.
think it's the same
Correct.
thing as journaling, or just can you provide data to AI? And that's why I mentioned the community part. If you join a community, you're seeing how people are actually using AI, and they might have some different scenarios. So, for example, the information you mentioned, you're bringing in the AI. That's already value that no other person would have, and you just have it in your control. So sharing this with
Yes.
others would actually give them more value. And I think this is the secret, I would say, or next level with AI is really us sharing like what we have or information that we fed the AI so that we get those results. So I think that's the new
Mm.
thing. And yeah, so it's an exciting thing. I just want to tackle one thing for any person listening in, just in terms of tools. If you're thinking about e-commerce, I'll just mention the ones that we might talk about next time. We might not cover
Yes.
all of them, but just this is in terms of the business. I think it's a great, like kind of a thing to look at, particularly if you're launching your business, thinking about, hey, I want to start my business right now. How would I use AI? So I will
Yep.
tackle every, I would say, structure here in terms of or any every stage and what you probably would use AI, what tools you would you use. So for example, product launch, you can use ChatGPT. So that's an easy one. Content creation, add creative AI. It's a tool that would just, can get you content. Email
Yep.
marketing, Klaviyo easy. And
Mm.
Klaviyo actually is implementing AI. So if you're looking at, hey, I don't know how to do a website, I don't know how to do things, AI would do everything if you really know how to use it. Like you can do a
Yes.
website with gem pages, you can do content with the tools that I just mentioned, copy with ChatGPT, and you can scale using Triplewell, which is an attribution tool that also use AI. So these tools, if we talk about them, probably we're going to tackle them more in the next call or next story
Yes.
podcast. But it's going to be really how you can leverage them and scale to the next level. And I've seen businesses go from 100K to 500K to a million, just leveraging all these tools. And that's why this is the next thing. And that's why I'm excited about AI.
Mm. Mm. And I think it's also like there's a colleague of mine that I know, and he has a business that's like essentially completely run through AI. So he has like a business, and they sell kind of like print on demand artworks, right? So it's like really cool, funky, different art, all these crazy designs. All the designs are organized and kind of like developed through AI. AI kind of creates the actual designs itself, right?
Infinite supply.
Right, infinite supply. There's never any shortage of new designs. Um, and then so the moment that a customer, and then so they take the images from obviously the designs, use those in creatives using, for example, Add Creative AI, spin that up, push that live. that kind of runs itself and starts generating sales. Once the sale comes through, that goes over, and the print on demand place actually, ships the product, gets that sorted. All of the customer service is sorted from, an AI kind of like chatbot. Maybe one person sits there and oversees the business operations. And I know that that company does like 100, maybe 150K a month with like no people. You know what I mean? There's like
Yes,
one person that's,
like AI-based companies. So that's something that like, when you see this, it's just exciting. Like you can see that the future is there, and you need to really master these tools. Because if you're thinking, hey, I need to master this, I need to master content creation, I need to master everything is there. You just need to use AI and know how to use it and strategize. And if you do this, you're gonna make 100K a month plus.
mm,
And in my
mm.
opinion, like as you mentioned, you need to master. Like you need to really do strategy and master AI.
And it just gives you the opportunity to make so much more profit. You know what I mean? Like the profit potential, like the speed, the profit potential, and then the ceiling that gets it's like it completely changes a landscape in terms of what's possible for founders. So I'm really excited to dive a little bit deeper into some of these tools that we'll unpack over the next session in terms of some particular strategies, some particular things that we can really like share with people and demonstrations, etc. What do you think, Hammond, from your perspective, as far as like how would you recommend people integrating these things, getting started, like starting to use if they're sitting on the outside and being like, geez, this is just overwhelming. Like I'm freaking out a little bit.
Yes, I know that actually a lot of people are overwhelmed because again, AI when you look at it, it's just almost like how can I start this? Like I don't know, like ChatGPT, like it just you need to type something and it feels like a little bit challenging, like just connecting
Mm,
the dots.
mm, mm,
But if I was to start, I'm going to be looking at, hey, what do you need? You need to run a business. Let's say you want to do an e-commerce store, so you need a store. So technically, is there an AI that would actually help you with that? That's the first thing. And you can kind of start positioning things step by step. Okay, and I need copy. Okay, so
mm,
what tool can I use? ChatGPT. So do I need what else do I need to launch a business? You need a website, you need content, and you need an email marketing backend, and you need a product. Can I use AI
yeah.
in all of these to actually launch something? And then you can kind of
Mm,
start using the tools. So you need to do a checklist of what you need, and then you can kind of
mm,
look at what tool would you use.
mm. And I think the other I know that from my own personal experience, this happens sometimes where it's like it you you can kind of like undervalue what gets created because it gets created so quickly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like if you
Like it's
jump
not,
into,
yes, I've seen this a lot. It's like, hey, it's a very
no,
fast prompt. It's like maybe
right?
it's
And you see the
not worth the
response, or
value.
you see like the directions or the text or kind of like the content, and you're like, oh come on, like that took like
It's so easy, right?
2 seconds to create. Come on, ChatGPT, like drag it out a little bit for me, so I value it or something. You know?
But if you come back in time, we used to click on a website and it takes time, like, hey, it's like maybe it's like gonna take like 10 minutes. Like I know that right now when you click on it, it's just like you see the website right away. But in the
Mm,
past, there are
yes,
situations where you click on something and you just wait, and there's like a wait time. And it feels like it's
correct.
normal. I need to wait a little bit. But in reality,
Mm,
speed is kind of the next thing. It's like it's the next
mm,
level. And we saw ChatGPT limited, a little bit slower. Right now, ChatGPT fast. And actually the pro
mm,
version extremely fast. And I would
yep.
really encourage people to use it. You have the best, like in terms of resources out there. When you use ChatGPT and use all the tools we talked about, you can actually make an impact in the market, and you don't need to like kind of know things. You need to be like a good strategist. If you're a good strategist, you're gonna make a lot of money. If you're just to
Mm,
say, oh, this doesn't work, or you kind of just ignore the trend, then it's gonna affect you over time. So I'm really thinking about this
mm,
as it's almost like this is an emergency meeting. Like we need to do
yeah.
this right now, and we need to act on
Yeah.
it.
I think the cool thing as well is that I've done a lot of experimenting with is also like a lot of GPTs and actually creating my own GPTs. So I've kind of like taken thousands of different kind of like emails or pieces of content and then loaded it into like a GPT to train it like a certain copywriter, like David Ogilvy, for example, or Eugene Schwartz. And I'm like, this is the type of language, these are the emails I want you to write like this. And you train the GPT such that it kind of like looks through that lens. And then when you prompt it to kind of like, write emails, write copy, it's like incredible,
Yes.
incredible the type of content. And
Almost like
I
you're
also
thinking about, for example, if you have a good outcome, how can I produce more of it? And
mm,
ChatGPT would be the amplifier. And that's how I think
Mm,
about it. I'm actually afraid of sharing with ChatGPT everything I'm doing because they're going to copy and they can just kind of get rid of me. In reality, it's not the case. They're going to
mm,
try to, like every business, if they tell you that they want to use AI to use that to kind of automate things, it's almost like they're telling you we want to scale, we want to amplify,
mm,
we want to
mm,
create more opportunities. And your goal would be, can you actually master these, let's say, tools and resources to help us scale? So for me, it's
mm.
again by default. If I was the person that was doing the ad copy, I'm probably they're going to be like, "Hey, you can actually do it better than me with AI, and you can just leverage, let's say, every
Correct.
structure in there." But in reality, you might need one that would look at everything you have there and seeing if it's making sense. If this actually avatar is the same avatar as the previous email, and you can start kind of diving
Mm,
into that. So I think strategy would always be in demand, but you still need to master these tools. If you don't master them, you're going to be left, and it's going to be
yeah.
very challenging.
Yeah, very, very exciting times. I think for all of our listeners, I think it's a very crucial moment in time, and like similar to what we were saying earlier, it's like I remember when my dad first brought home the computer, and he was like, "This is going to be the next thing," and I was like, "Wait, what? Like this is why would somebody use this clunky machine?" And it's like this is what people operate their whole companies now, and AI is going to be the next level of that into the future. You know.
And it's also growing fast. That's the fear
Mm,
probably is because of the speed. Because the internet
mm,
took probably years to stabilize. This
correct.
industry, like we're talking about
Correct.
speed right now, so it's really a strong
Mm,
one.
mm. Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's maybe give people a few actionable things that they could do directly after this that might be able to be helpful to alleviate some of the concern or alleviate some of the fear about AI taking their jobs, or what should I do? Where should I go to specifically? Are there some like resources that you think are really relevant from your perspective, Hammond, that would be helpful to maybe like learn from or get across or understand a little bit more about before we wrap up here?
Yes. So first, you need to learn more about AI. That's the first thing. So just looking at this, as I mentioned, we have a community where we talk about AI, we talk about new tools. Literally, I think a few days ago we had like one of the coaches actually share how to use the new features with ChatGPT. So you need exposure. Not saying that you need to join our community, but you need some exposure in terms of
Yes.
the communities and getting like a feel of what's happening in the market. Because otherwise, again, hiding is not going to be the solution. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Don't hide. Try to
Mm,
engage, try to learn more about AI and how you can use it. Now, the fear should not be, will you be in demand or not? It's actually, are you a good strategist or not? So you should actually think
mm,
about, what is the goal? Are you looking to build a business? If that's the case, is it in e-commerce? If that's the case, tackle how to use those tools. So the checklist would be, what do I need and how can I leverage AI? If you already have a business that's already running ads and you're already optimizing, you should think about, do I actually need all these people? Can I replace,
yes.
like, do some kind of testing with AI and see if we can even have the media buyer use AI tools to scale the returns? It's again a win-win.
Yes.
And or can I
Yeah.
use the creative strategies to actually use these tools to create more content? So you can start kind of looking at, if you have an established business, how to scale with AI. If you're, let's say,
Mm,
just you have a like a job that's not in this industry and you're thinking about, what should I do next? Probably you should position, do you want to pursue this like the job you have? If that's the case, how can you leverage AI? You can literally put in AI like a journal of what you're doing and ask the AI to kind of optimize that for you, and you're almost like upgrading in the same time. So if you have a job
yeah.
where again you don't want to get into e-commerce, I don't want e-commerce, I'm not interested, then just use the journaling to actually optimize, and you're going to be already ahead. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the first level. But in my opinion, if you're thinking about the future, you should think about business. And in business, as we kind of
Mm,
focus on e-commerce, it's really leveraging all these tools that we're going to be talking about next episode, and how we can scale things with all the resources we have, which again, it's an amazing thing. Joining a community
mm.
would be the first thing I would do.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, very good. Fantastic, Hammond. Let's dive into some more detail next week when we go into
Yes.
some specific tools, some demonstrations, some how-tos for people, so they can really understand. And what we will do after that episode next week, we'll put together a list of kind of like notes in a PDF or a downloadable document that people can really go into there and have access to
Yes.
all those tools and click into those ones and actually learn from all of those particular tools, because there's some amazing technologies that are being produced at the moment. We really are in a very, very unique period of time in history. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
Amazing. So
Very
yes, we're
good.
gonna share. We're gonna share some tools. Next episode, get ready and click and download, prepare because you need to be ready.
Very good. Well, as always, Hammond, always a pleasure to have these conversations with you and kind of go over some of the updates, some of the things we're working on, some strategies, and then some world-changing technologies as well. So Thanks again for an amazing conversation, and I'll see you very soon.
Amazing. I'll see you soon. Looking forward to the next episode.